Have you ever felt that faint stir within, a whisper, a subtle urge that you've forgotten something profound, something essential? It's as if the very fabric of your being is yearning to remember a truth long veiled beneath the surface of everyday life. This stirring is the essence of a journey that most of us are unaware we are even on, much less where it may lead. But what if I told you that this journey has been hidden from you, not by others, but by your own mind, by the very structures that you've come to trust without question? What if the truth about who you really are has been veiled in the thick mist of an illusion so convincing, so all-encompassing, that you've forgotten your deepest, most authentic self? At the core of this forgetting lies a trick, one so subtle, so entwined with the very nature of our reality, that it has become a part of us. It is a trick that we've collectively fallen into, not through malice or grand conspiracy, but through a gradual shift in awareness, a shift so slow and imperceptible that we fail to recognize it until we stand on the edge of revelation. The trick is simple yet devastating in its scope. It convinces us that we are mere fragments of a greater whole, that we are separate from the world around us, that we are finite beings living within a limited, fragile existence. In truth, however, we are so much more than this fleeting sense of self. We are not just bodies, not just minds confined to a temporal existence. We are the very fabric of the universe, woven into the stars and the earth, into the breath of life itself. This is the great paradox: the deeper we search for ourselves, the further we seem to drift away. We've become so entangled in the illusion of separation that we have forgotten the boundless, eternal truth of who we truly are. But, like a dreamer slowly waking up, the veil begins to lift, piece by piece, and a deeper understanding emerges, one that invites us to remember what we have forgotten. Imagine, for a moment, that you are standing in a vast field under the endless sky, the wind brushing your skin as the sun casts its warm glow over everything around you. Everything feels so real, so certain. Yet, there is something just beyond the horizon, an unseen force that calls to you, pulling you toward it. This force is not an external one, it is your own deeper consciousness, the part of you that is aware of the illusion and yearns to break free from it. It is a force as old as time itself, present within every cell, every breath, every thought you have ever had. And yet, like the proverbial dreamer, you have forgotten the truth of your origin, the source from which you came. The journey back to who you really are begins with the simple act of remembrance. It is a process of peeling back the layers of conditioning, of disentangling yourself from the false beliefs that have been woven into the very fabric of your identity. But this journey is not an easy one, for the illusion of separation is persistent and deeply ingrained. It takes courage to question what you've always believed, to step outside the confines of the story that has been told to you since childhood. It takes the strength to confront the deeper currents of your mind and the willingness to embrace the unknown, the mystery that lies just beyond the veil. And yet, there is an undeniable beauty in this process of awakening. The moment you begin to see through the illusion, the world around you shifts. Colors become more vibrant, sounds more resonant, and a deep sense of peace settles within you, as though you are remembering something forgotten long ago. It is as if the very universe itself is conspiring to help you rediscover your true nature, to remind you of the infinite possibilities that lie within. But what does it mean to remember? To wake up? These words can sound vague, even esoteric, to a mind entrenched in the practical world of everyday life. After all, you may be thinking, I am already awake, aren't I? I go about my day, make decisions, interact with others, I live in this world as fully as anyone else. Yet, this is precisely the point: we are awake, but not fully. We are like sleepwalkers moving through life, unaware of the deeper forces at play, unaware of the vast interconnectedness that binds us all. The awakening that I speak of is not one that requires you to abandon your everyday life or retreat to a mountaintop in search of enlightenment. No, this awakening is a shift in perception, a recognition that your consciousness is not confined to your body or your thoughts. It is an awareness that you are part of something far greater, something eternal and boundless. When you truly awaken to this truth, you begin to see that the world is not just a series of disconnected events and objects. It is a living, breathing tapestry, a reflection of the deeper patterns of existence. You are not a passive observer, you are an active participant in the unfolding of reality itself. Every thought, every word, every action you take ripples outward, influencing the world in ways you may not even understand. And yet, it is this very interconnectedness that reveals the illusion we have been tricked into believing, that we are separate, isolated beings, disconnected from one another and from the universe itself. The truth is that we are all connected. We are all expressions of the same infinite consciousness, fragments of the divine playing out our individual roles within the grand cosmic drama. The moment you realize this, the moment you remember who you truly are, your entire world shifts. No longer will you be deceived by the illusion of separation, no longer will you feel lost in the maze of fleeting desires and distractions. You will begin to see the world with new eyes, eyes that understand the deeper truths beneath the surface. But to awaken to this reality is not a simple task. It requires that you confront the deepest aspects of your being, to question everything you have ever been taught, everything you have ever believed about yourself. It requires you to step outside the boundaries of your mind and embrace the vast unknown, to trust in the wisdom that lies within you. It is a journey that can be disorienting, even unsettling, but it is also a journey that leads to the greatest freedom, the freedom to live as your true self, to be one with the universe and all that is. As we embark on this exploration of what it means to remember who you really are, I invite you to open your heart and mind to the possibility that everything you think you know may be a veil, a mere shadow of the truth that lies just beyond. The path ahead may be uncertain, but it is also filled with boundless potential. Together, we will peel back the layers of illusion, revealing the radiant truth that has always been within you. As we venture deeper into the realm of remembrance, we encounter the very bedrock of the illusion we are seeking to transcend. The trick, the grand deception, lies in the creation of a reality that convinces us we are separate from each other and from the universe at large. The primary concept to understand here is the illusion of separateness, the belief that we are isolated beings, confined to individual bodies and minds, living in a world apart from the rest of existence. This belief permeates our daily lives, shaping everything from our relationships to the way we perceive our purpose in life. It tells us that we are small, insignificant creatures, that our thoughts, actions, and lives are fleeting and ultimately inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. Yet, beneath the surface of this illusion lies a deeper truth, a truth that challenges everything we have been taught to believe. The truth is this: we are not separate at all. We are not isolated fragments of existence, but rather expressions of the same universal consciousness, interconnected with all that is. Imagine for a moment that the entire universe is a vast, interconnected web, with every individual being a unique node within that web. The illusion of separation is like the belief that each node is independent, standing alone, disconnected from the others. But in reality, every node is a reflection of the whole. The web, in its entirety, is one living, breathing organism, and every thread within it is connected to every other thread. This web is not just a metaphor, it is the very fabric of existence itself. The universe is not a random collection of matter and energy, but a conscious, self-organizing system that is alive with meaning. Every atom, every molecule, every thought and emotion is a part of this cosmic dance. There is no true separation between you and the world around you. You are as much a part of the stars in the sky as you are of the ground beneath your feet. The consciousness that flows through you flows through all things, from the smallest particle to the largest galaxy. This is not some abstract, philosophical notion, it is a fundamental truth that can be felt, experienced, and known. To understand this, we must first recognize that the mind, with all its beliefs, ideas, and perceptions, is a filter, a lens through which we experience the world. The mind is not the source of reality, it is merely a tool for interpreting it. The mind creates the illusion of separateness by focusing on differences, on the surface level of things, rather than seeing the underlying unity that binds all things together. It is as though the mind is a prism, bending the light of truth into the myriad forms of duality, good and bad, light and dark, self and other. These distinctions are useful in navigating the world of appearances, but they are ultimately illusory when viewed from the perspective of the whole. When we shift our awareness from the surface to the depths, we begin to see that these distinctions dissolve. The line between self and other begins to blur, and we recognize that the boundaries we once thought defined us are nothing more than mental constructs. In truth, there is no self that exists apart from the rest of the universe. You are not a separate entity living in a world of separate entities. You are the universe, experiencing itself through your unique form. The distinction between you and the world is akin to the distinction between a wave and the ocean. It is an illusion, a temporary appearance. This realization, this shift in perception, is not merely a theoretical concept, it is a lived experience, one that can be felt directly. It is the experience of unity, of oneness with all that is. It is the profound awareness that everything in existence, from the tiniest blade of grass to the furthest reaches of the cosmos, is interconnected and interdependent. This awareness is not just a fleeting insight, it is a way of being, a way of living that transcends the egoic sense of self and embraces the interconnectedness of all things. But how, you might wonder, do we come to experience this truth? The first step is recognizing that the illusion of separateness is just that, an illusion. It is a story we tell ourselves, a narrative created by the mind to make sense of the world. This story is not inherently wrong, but it is incomplete. It is a partial view of reality, one that focuses on the details rather than the whole. In order to see the full picture, we must be willing to question the story, to look beyond the surface and see the underlying unity that connects all things. At the heart of this shift lies the concept of presence, the ability to be fully engaged in the present moment, without attachment to the past or future. When we are present, we are no longer lost in the stream of thoughts and emotions that keep us locked in the illusion of separateness. We are no longer identifying with the limited self, but instead with the vastness of existence itself. In the present moment, the boundaries between self and other dissolve, and we experience the interconnectedness of all things. We begin to see that there is no me here and you there. There is only the flow of life, the pulse of consciousness moving through all things. This is the heart of the spiritual awakening process, the realization that we are not separate from the universe, but that we are the universe, unfolding in this moment. The process of awakening is not about gaining something new or adding to ourselves, it is about shedding the layers of illusion that have obscured our true nature. It is about letting go of the stories we tell ourselves about who we are, and embracing the truth of who we've always been. In this sense, awakening is not a journey to something out there, but a return to our true nature, a remembering of what we have always known deep within us. As we continue to explore the themes and concepts that underlie the trick of forgetting who we really are, it becomes clear that this illusion of separation is not just a mental construct, it is woven into the very fabric of our lives. It shapes our relationships, our sense of purpose, and even our understanding of reality itself. But once we begin to see through this illusion, we begin to understand that everything we have been seeking is already within us. We are not lost, but only temporarily forgotten, and the path back to our true selves is always available to us. To understand the deeper nature of our forgetting, we must turn to the stories that have long been woven into the fabric of human culture, stories that speak to the core of who we are, tales that carry with them the wisdom of ancient truths. These stories are not just fables or myths, they are allegories, rich with symbolism and layered meanings, inviting us to explore the deeper currents of consciousness that run beneath the surface of our daily lives. One such story is that of the mythological hero's journey, a narrative found across cultures, from the ancient Greeks to the indigenous peoples of the Americas, from the Eastern philosophies to the modern world. In this archetypal story, the hero embarks on a quest, often unknowingly, to reclaim something that has been lost or stolen. This journey is fraught with trials and challenges, with moments of great despair and uncertainty. But through perseverance, the hero begins to uncover hidden strengths, unraveling the layers of illusion that have obscured the truth. The journey is not about acquiring something new, but about rediscovering what was always there, buried beneath the surface of the self. The hero, at the outset of the journey, is usually unaware of their true potential. They live within a world of illusions, often governed by the ego, trapped within the confines of a false self. This false self is shaped by the opinions and beliefs of others, by the expectations and limitations imposed by society. It is this false self that must be left behind in order to embark on the path to self-discovery. In many stories, the hero is called to leave their ordinary life, to step out of the comfort zone of the known and venture into the unknown. This step is symbolic of the need to let go of the limitations of the ego and embrace the larger, universal truth that awaits beyond. In the myth of the Buddha, we see a similar narrative. The young prince Siddhartha, living in a palace of luxury and comfort, is shielded from the harsh realities of the world. But as he ventures outside the palace walls, he encounters suffering, sickness, old age, and death. This confrontation with the realities of existence shakes him to his core, prompting him to leave his life of privilege and embark on a quest for enlightenment. This journey, too, is not one of acquiring external knowledge or treasures, but of uncovering the truth that lies within, the realization that the illusion of separation, of suffering, is not the ultimate reality. The Buddha's awakening is a return to his true nature, a rediscovery of the interconnectedness of all beings, a remembering that transcends the individual ego. Similarly, in the Western world, we find the myth of the fall and redemption, a narrative that speaks to the journey of remembering who we are after a period of forgetfulness. The story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden is one of loss, of being cast out from the paradise of unity and connection, and then, through a series of trials, seeking to return to that state of grace. The tree of knowledge in the garden symbolizes the point of separation, the moment when humanity became conscious of its own individuality and, in doing so, lost its direct connection with the divine. The fall represents the descent into the illusion of separation, but it is also a necessary part of the journey, for it is only through the experience of separation that the possibility of return becomes meaningful. It is through the trials of life, through the experience of suffering and alienation, that we are able to remember the truth of our unity with all things. These symbolic narratives are not mere stories, they are windows into the deeper truths of our existence. They reveal to us the universal pattern of forgetfulness and remembrance, the cyclical nature of human consciousness. Just as the hero of the myth must journey through darkness before they can return to the light, so too must we journey through the illusions of separation and ego before we can awaken to the truth of our interconnectedness. This is not a linear process, but a spiral, a continuous unfolding of layers, where we remember, forget, and remember again. Each layer of forgetfulness is an opportunity for deeper insight, a chance to shed yet another aspect of the false self and reconnect with the truth of who we really are. In these allegories, we also find the recurring motif of the guides, or teachers, who appear at crucial moments in the hero's journey. These figures often come in the form of wise mentors, spiritual beings, or even animals that speak with hidden wisdom. They serve as reminders that, while the hero must walk the path alone, they are never truly alone. These guides represent the deeper wisdom within each of us, the eternal voice that calls us back to the truth, even when we are lost in the wilderness of illusion. They symbolize the inner knowing that we all carry, the spark of divinity that resides within every human being, waiting to be awakened. Take, for example, the figure of the wise old man or woman, a common archetype in mythology. This figure often appears when the hero is at a crossroads, unsure of which direction to take. The wise guide speaks not in clear instructions, but in riddles or paradoxes that challenge the hero's conventional thinking. These cryptic messages are meant to jolt the hero out of their limited perspective and open them up to a larger, more expansive view of reality. The guide teaches the hero that the answers they seek are not external, but reside within them, in the depths of their own being. The symbolism of the guide is powerful, for it mirrors the way in which we, too, can access the deeper wisdom within ourselves. When we begin to question the illusion of separation and the story of the ego, we find that there is an inner voice, an intuitive knowing, that guides us back to our true nature. This voice is always there, but it is often drowned out by the noise of the mind, by the constant chatter of thoughts, judgments, and fears. The challenge is not to seek wisdom outside of ourselves, but to turn inward, to listen to the silent voice of our own consciousness, which always knows the way home. These stories also remind us that the journey is not one of linear progression, but of cyclical return. The hero may stray from the path, may fall into darkness or despair, but the story is never truly over. There is always the possibility of return, of rediscovery. In this way, the narrative of forgetfulness and remembrance is not one of failure, but of growth. Each cycle of forgetfulness serves to deepen our understanding, to bring us closer to the truth. And so, the journey continues, forever unfolding, forever returning to the self. As we immerse ourselves in these ancient narratives, we begin to recognize their profound relevance to our own lives. The myths and symbols speak not just to our past, but to our present and future. They offer a roadmap for awakening, a guide to navigating the illusions that have kept us trapped in a false sense of identity. The process of remembering who we truly are is not a one-time event, but an ongoing, dynamic unfolding, much like the hero's journey itself. As we delve deeper into the implications of awakening to the truth of who we really are, we must begin to explore how this profound shift in consciousness can be practically integrated into our everyday lives. The stories and symbolic narratives we've encountered thus far are more than mere abstract ideas, they are mirrors of the journey we must each undertake. But how can this cosmic realization, this understanding of interconnectedness and unity, translate into the messy, complex world of our daily experience? How can we navigate a reality that so often appears divided, fragmented, and filled with distraction, while holding on to the truth of our inherent oneness? The first step toward integrating these insights is to recognize that the awakening process is not a singular event, but a gradual unfolding. It is a return to wholeness, but that return is not instantaneous. Much like the hero's journey, this process involves moments of clarity and insight, but also periods of confusion, doubt, and struggle. There will be times when the illusions of separateness and the grip of the ego seem overwhelming, when the mind wants to pull us back into the old narratives, the familiar patterns of fear and limitation. Yet, it is in these moments that the deepest transformation occurs. The challenge is not to fight the darkness, but to see through it, to recognize that it, too, is part of the larger dance of life. In practical terms, this means learning to navigate the world with a different perspective. The key is to recognize the presence of the illusion of separateness in every aspect of our lives, from our relationships to our work, to the way we view ourselves and others. When we begin to understand that we are not isolated beings, but part of an interconnected whole, our approach to the world shifts. We no longer see ourselves as separate from the people around us, or from the challenges we face. Instead, we begin to see ourselves as part of the larger web of existence, with every action, every thought, and every interaction rippling outward and affecting the whole. Take, for example, our relationships with others. When we believe in the illusion of separation, we often approach relationships from a place of defensiveness or fear, believing that we are separate, isolated beings with our own needs and desires that must be fulfilled. We may compete with others, feel threatened by their success, or become attached to the idea of winning in our interactions. But when we awaken to the truth of our interconnectedness, our relationships transform. We begin to see others not as separate individuals, but as reflections of ourselves. The boundaries between self and other begin to dissolve, and we recognize that the joy, pain, and growth of others are as much a part of us as our own. This realization leads to a profound shift in how we relate to others, moving from competition to cooperation, from division to unity, from judgment to acceptance. This shift also influences the way we approach our work, our creative endeavors, and our purpose in life. When we are trapped in the illusion of separateness, we often approach our work with a sense of scarcity, believing that there is only so much to go around, that success is a limited commodity, and that we must compete with others to achieve our goals. But when we recognize that we are all part of a larger whole, we begin to approach our work with a sense of abundance. Success becomes not something to be grasped, but something that flows naturally when we align with the greater currents of life. We no longer feel the need to prove ourselves, because we understand that our worth is not tied to external achievements, but to the inherent value of our being. This shift toward abundance and cooperation also extends to the way we view the world around us. When we perceive ourselves as separate from nature, from the environment, or from the planet, we treat the earth as something to be exploited and consumed. We take from it without regard for its well-being, believing that the resources of the world are limitless, that our actions have no real consequence. But when we awaken to the truth of our interconnectedness, we recognize that we are not separate from the earth, but an integral part of it. The health of the planet is our health, the well-being of all living beings is our well-being. In this awareness, we become more mindful of our choices, more conscious of the impact our actions have on the world around us. The shift from exploitation to stewardship, from domination to harmony, is one of the most powerful ways in which this awakening can be expressed in the world. But the real transformation happens within the self. As we begin to see through the illusion of separateness, we begin to shed the layers of fear, insecurity, and doubt that have defined our sense of self. The ego, that part of us that believes we are separate, begins to lose its grip. We begin to recognize that the voice of the ego is not the true voice of our being, but a false identity created by our thoughts, our experiences, and our conditioning. This understanding allows us to step into a more authentic version of ourselves, one that is not bound by the limitations of the past or the expectations of others. We begin to experience a sense of freedom, a freedom that comes not from escaping the world, but from embracing it fully, from being present with all that is, without resistance. One of the most profound ways this awareness can be integrated into daily life is through the practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness is not just about being present in the moment, it is about recognizing the interconnectedness of all things in every moment. It is about seeing the divine in the mundane, the sacred in the ordinary. When we are mindful, we become aware of the threads that connect us to everyone and everything around us. We see that our thoughts, our actions, and our words ripple outward, creating waves of energy that affect the whole. This awareness helps us to live with greater intention, greater compassion, and greater presence. It is important to note that this process of integration is not always easy. There will be times when the old patterns of separation, the fear, the anxiety, the ego-driven desires, will resurface. But this is part of the journey. Awakening is not a one-time event, it is a process of continual remembrance. The key is to stay committed to the truth, to keep returning to the understanding that we are not separate from the world around us. The more we embody this truth, the more it will permeate our lives, transforming the way we see ourselves, others, and the world. In practical terms, this means taking small steps each day to live in alignment with the deeper truth of our interconnectedness. It means cultivating awareness in every interaction, every thought, and every choice. It means recognizing that the path to true fulfillment does not lie in acquiring more or achieving more, but in remembering who we truly are and living from that place of authenticity. As we near the end of this exploration into the vast, cosmic truth of who we really are, we stand at the precipice of a profound realization, one that has the power to completely transform the way we experience ourselves, others, and the world. The journey we have undertaken, both inward and outward, reveals a truth that is as simple as it is revolutionary: you are not separate. You are not merely a small, isolated fragment of existence, struggling against the currents of life. You are the ocean itself, vast, interconnected, and infinitely expansive. The illusion of separateness, the belief that you are an individual isolated from the rest of existence, is the veil that has obscured this truth for eons. Yet, in this very moment, the veil is thinning. The trick that once kept us locked in the perception of separation is beginning to dissolve, and the light of our true nature is shining through. What we have been searching for, what we have been seeking in external achievements, relationships, and possessions, has always been within us. It has been there, beneath the surface, waiting for us to remember. The key to unlocking this remembrance is not to seek something new, but to return to what has always been, to reclaim the forgotten truth of our unity with the universe. This truth is not an abstract concept, nor a distant ideal. It is a living, breathing reality that we can experience directly. It is the very essence of our being. When we step beyond the illusion of separateness, we begin to see that everything is interconnected. We are not separate from the people we meet, the animals we share the planet with, or the earth itself. We are all part of the same web of existence, flowing together, breathing together, being together. This is not a philosophical idea to be pondered from afar, it is a living truth that can be felt, experienced, and known in the depths of our own consciousness. But this awareness requires something of us. It demands that we let go of the old stories, the old identities, the old ways of thinking and being. It requires that we stop identifying with the limited self, the ego, and instead align ourselves with the infinite, boundless truth of who we really are. This process of letting go is not always easy. It requires us to confront the fears, insecurities, and attachments that have defined our sense of self for so long. But as we begin to shed these layers, we find that the weight of the world is lifted from our shoulders. We begin to experience a sense of freedom that is not bound by the constraints of the ego, but is free to flow with the currents of life. This freedom is not the freedom to do anything we want, to satisfy the ego's desires or to escape the responsibilities of life. It is the freedom to be who we truly are, to live in alignment with our highest truth, and to experience the world not as separate, disconnected individuals, but as expressions of the same universal consciousness. This is the freedom of the awakened heart, the freedom of the soul that knows it is one with all things. And so, the call is clear: awaken. Remember who you are. Shed the layers of illusion that have kept you bound in the darkness of separateness, and step into the light of your true nature. This awakening is not a one-time event, but a continuous process of remembrance, a journey that unfolds over time. It is a journey of returning home to yourself, to the truth that has always been with you. It is the journey of the hero, the journey of the Buddha, the journey of every soul that has ever walked the earth. It is your journey. In every moment, you have the opportunity to return to this truth. In every breath, in every thought, in every action, you can choose to remember who you are. You can choose to live from the place of unity, from the place of love, from the place of infinite possibility. This is not some distant future event, it is here, now, waiting for you to awaken to it. The world around us is changing, shifting in ways that we may not fully understand. But one thing is certain: the illusion of separateness is crumbling. More and more people are beginning to awaken to the truth of their interconnectedness, to the truth of their oneness with the universe. This awakening is not limited to individuals, it is a collective shift in consciousness. As we each remember who we are, we contribute to the greater awakening of humanity as a whole. The more we awaken, the more we help to awaken others, until the entire world is bathed in the light of remembrance. This is the call of the times. The veil is lifting. The illusion is dissolving. The truth of who you really are is waiting to be remembered. It is not a question of if this will happen, but when, and that when is now. You are not a separate, isolated being. You are the universe itself, living, breathing, and experiencing. The only thing standing between you and the truth is the illusion that you are separate. And so, I ask you, will you step into the truth of who you really are? Will you let go of the stories that have kept you trapped in the illusion of separateness? Will you remember the infinite, boundless truth that lives within you? The choice is yours, and the time is now. You have everything you need to awaken, to reclaim the truth of your being, and to live from a place of love, unity, and infinite possibility. The journey is waiting, and it begins with a single step, your step. May you walk this path with clarity, courage, and grace. May you remember who you really are, and in doing so, help others to remember as well. The world needs you, not as a separate individual, but as the universal being you were always meant to be.